that the Brits didn't, from day one, say, hey, go ahead and have access, but we got there.
Well, that was Pete Hegseth hitting out at Britain's initial refusal to allow America to use British military bases to strike Iran, including RAF Fairford in the Cotswolds. Today, Sir Keir Starmer has called on President Trump to negotiate with Iran and maintains his position that Britain was right not to join the US and Israel's initial strikes on Saturday. But it doesn't look like President Trump is willing to negotiate.
They're calling, they're saying, how do we make a deal? I said, you're being a little bit late. And we want to fight now more than they do.
Just being a little bit late. With me now is Middle East and Eastern Europe foreign policy expert Harley Lippman. There's going to be no negotiation here, is there, Harley, in terms of the United States? President Trump in the White House earlier, I was there, he's saying we're winning, and actually we're quite enjoying it.
Yeah, there'll be no negotiations. Pete Hegseth has said it, and President Trump has alluded to it, that this is a generational chance to change the Mideast and change the global balance of power in the world. It's a great leverage play against China.
Why do you think our Prime Minister Keir Starmer is so keen to negotiate at this point? I mean, the war started, that America has spent tens of millions, probably hundreds of millions of dollars getting their arsenal, their ships, their jets ready and positioned. Why does Keir Starmer now think it's appropriate to talk about negotiations?
Well, because like most people who are liberal left, they're consumed by fear, and they hear war, and war is always bad, but sometimes necessary. And so because they are looking at the world through the eyes of fear, it gets in the way of their common sense and logic. So whenever they hear a conflict, they're always saying, don't fight, talk. And negotiations would be ideal. President Trump gave them an opportunity. But according to Steve Witkoff, Iran came into the negotiations day one saying, we have 11 nuclear bombs, or we're about to produce 11 nuclear bombs. And, you know, Iran came in beating their chest, showing how big and tough they are, clearly not sending a signal that they would be reasonable and negotiate. Moreover, I don't think it's likely that we could trust whatever they agree to. It's a messianic regime with an apocalyptic view of the world. They view negotiations tactically as a temporary opportunity to delay or hide. They don't view negotiations as we do in the West, where people enter into talks to come up with some reasonable compromise so we can avoid conflict. You know, the very essence of the regime in Iran is about war and instability, but they want to do it on their terms.
Harley, can I get your take, please, on something that happened yesterday? We heard Pete Hegseth in his briefing yesterday morning talking about the sinking of an Iranian ship. It was the Iris Dena, or Dena, however you pronounce it, D-E-N-A. It was an Iranian warship which was sunk off the coast of Sri Lanka. It was around 2,000 miles away from mainland Iran, and apparently it had been involved or doing some sort of sea trials with, I think it was perhaps India. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. However, CNN and many people on the left, we're talking about those of the left persuasion, they've run an article tonight saying, in torpedoing an enemy warship, the US Navy just did something it hasn't done in 8 decades. People are calling it an atrocity, saying that the 87 Iranian sailors who were sent to the bottom of the ocean, their bodies were recovered by the Sri Lankans, saying that the United States should have made an effort to go and recover them and recover the bodies. What's your take on that? Was it fair game? The fact that this Iranian warship was 2,000 miles from mainland Iran, maybe necessarily wasn't directly involved in the conflict, but this US submarine sunk them anyway with a torpedo. Is that fair game?
Had to destroy Hitler and fascism. So whether it's fair game or not fair game, I think the bigger picture is that we have a regime that wants to destroy the West. You know, they've said it many times, no nation in American history has been more obsessed with destroying it than Iran. For 47 years, every day, they chant and talk about death to America. And now they're building nuclear weapons with the missiles to carry them to Europe, England, and the United States. So I view this as an existential threat to the United States and our allies, and it's a war. And in war, all is fair game, provided it's military targets. Moreover, for them to call it an atrocity is really something, given that the fact that now the number appears to be coming to about 40,000 innocent civilians that they murdered. It's actually the largest slaughter of Muslims over a 3-day period in the last century. And they're the ones calling what the United States did an atrocity. It's outrageous, and shows what hypocrites and really how demonic the regime is in Iran.
Yeah, it was the Iranian foreign minister, a guy called Abbas Araghchi, who identified the frigate, the Iranian frigate, as the Iris Denna, saying it was lost 2,000 miles from Iran's shores. Sri Lanka reported it received a distress signal from the 1,500-ton frigate. It reported rescuing 32 people and recovering 87 bodies, leaving the rest of the crew missing. Pete Hegseth, the US Secretary of War, described the sinking as a quiet death. Araghchi called it an atrocity, and the Iranian frigate was reportedly on its way back home after participating in India's multilateral Milan 2026 naval exercises. It was basically sea trials with 18 friendly foreign countries. Yeah, I don't particularly care. They're all IRGC. They're all despot Islamists.
And I'll add something
is anyone
else.
Complaining about? Yeah, go on, Harley.
Yeah, you're quite right. This is a message to Iran that the regime better come up with leaders who are willing to take new direction, not from China and Russia and North Korea, but to work with the United States and come to a resolution, perhaps Venezuela style. So the message is you can run, but you can't hide.
Yeah, well said. On that bombshell, excuse the pun, Harley, we'll leave it at that. Harley Lippman, Middle East and Eastern Europe foreign policy expert. Thank you, Harley. Appreciate it. gbnews.com/your say. Let me know your thoughts, viewers and listeners.